Over the last 2 days, I have been running in the Asics Megablast and the Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra. And today, I'm going to be comparing these two shoes.
Molly in a ritter, I the notion. Molly's money get to stay in motion. But now you're working wicked fast. They are the urge you're on top. Happy style fast.
Here we have two super trainers that could not be more different underfoot. The Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra is a super comfortable, very relaxed, very soft, extremely unique sensation shoe that relies on this red layer here, which is the Super Boom capsule, to deliver a sort of hard to characterize ride that has had me trying to define the shoe somewhat unsuccessfully over the course of my runs in it. The Asics Megablast has a punchy, fast, quick turnover ATPU that seems to be extremely durable, what with this being over 250 miles now. And it is definitely a speed-oriented compound, and the upper seems to agree with that. So those are the two surface-level differences between the two shoes. I ran in the Megablast yesterday, Red Hare today, and so the thoughts on the Red Hare 9 Ultra are a little bit more top of mind for me. Some things that I noticed over the course of the run today. On my left foot, I was having like a weird ankle soreness, I would say, right underneath where the ball of your ankle is. So sort of if your ball of your ankle is right here, there was some muscular soreness along in that area today for me. And I think that that's a result of how dynamic and squidgy this foam can feel underfoot. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was something I also experienced on my right ankle the first time I ran in this, just a little bit, but this time on the inside instead of the lateral side. It was similar soreness, like a part of my musculature was being worked that had never been worked before. So more of that today, which makes a ton of sense. But I think that a contributing factor to that is how far laterally and medially these sidewalls, the like rigid component of the heel counter, wraps around the back of the upper. So I think that that's like maybe digging in a little bit or potentially providing too much stability so that when my foot flexes the way that it would because of the unstable surface, then my ankle is working against that rigidity. Not my favorite sensation, but it's not like one that I would be willing to ascribe negativity to either, because it did feel like the muscles were being worked, and that's not itself a bad thing. Like if you're getting new areas of your muscles, like of your foot and lower leg and ankle muscles worked as a result of the shoe, what that tells me is that I'm probably underworking those areas by running in all of the other shoes that I'm running in. And that's why having a diverse rotation for people that are running a ton of miles, it can be very beneficial. And experientially for me, I feel like when I'm getting stimulus like that, I'm actually developing strength in areas that I wouldn't otherwise have that strength. So I take that as a good thing ultimately, but it's not necessarily the most pleasant sensation. I do feel like today we're going to stay on the Red Hare for a bit because I ran in the Megablast yesterday. We'll talk about the Megablast in a minute, but I think I figured this out a little bit more today. And it is definitely on the recovery side of running for me. I wouldn't say like a strict recovery shoe, but the way that it bounces me along, the way that it wants me to run is almost heel oriented. And as those who follow me know, I'm not a heel striker. I tend to land more on the forefoot. And we'll see when I get a chance to review the footage from this run that I took today in this shoe, if that remains consistent, like if I'm still landing in the forefoot. But I would be willing to bet that at least some of the strides throughout the run, even if it's not on camera, they must have been midfoot. It felt like I was landing directly like in this red zone right here and like across the platform, of course, but it just felt like I was landing firmly right there. And what gives me that sensation underfoot is there is a midfoot shank right like in that zone, and I felt some level of rigidity that I don't feel when I'm trying to go quickly in this shoe that actually manages to stabilize the entire platform. And there are some strides that I took in the Red Hare today where I was feeling that extra sense of sure-footedness and of stability, and as if there was no side-to-side wiggle today. And so I think I really kind of dialed in the pace range for this, and it was somewhere around 8:15, 8:20, which is, again, that's not slow for me. That's relatively normal on the, like, yeah, normal end of normal. Like, that's my daily pace, really. But I think that a lot of my effort, like, I was trying to get some quicker pace in throughout the run intermittently. And so I think where it averaged out was around that pace range that it felt really comfortable. And like the slower end of that pace range, like touching 8:45-ish, occasionally even 9 in this, felt very, very comfortable. And so probably this is going to be one that I use for recovery efforts. Another noteworthy thing today with the Red Hare is I went into today grumpy because I ran out of caffeine in my house. That's part one of the story. Didn't have the normal amount of caffeine that I would have going into the run, which is never fun for the fellow caffeine junkies out there. But I was just like tired from yesterday too. I did a 21-mile double yesterday, and that is pretty regular for me on Wednesdays. It's not like a, whoa, surprise, you have to run a double day today. No, of course my body is well prepared for that. But the run in the Megablast in the afternoon yesterday went terribly, not to the fault of the Megablast, I'll come to that, but I was just in shambles when I got back from my run yesterday. And I was expecting to, like, I went into this run so grumpy in the Red Hare today. I was just not having it. The temperature's dropping again. It's going to be back down to like -1 or something when last I looked this weekend on Saturday morning. And it's like, yeah, I'm sick of the winter, and I was grumpy going into the run, which is why I give you all of this elaborate context that you probably didn't need to tell you that I had a good time today in this. I took it very easy, right? And my average pace was somewhere around the 8:30s when all was said and done. And I felt like this saved my legs. Like, I had some pretty rough inner hip flexor stress going into today. Nothing like injury wise, but just soreness, tiredness, exhaustion. And I left the run actually literally feeling fresher than when I started. I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes for me, running will, I mean, almost always running will elevate my mood, will make me feel better. But sometimes getting the dust out of the legs or getting the whatever happened to me yesterday out of my legs really will make an impact on my mood for the rest of the day and on my legs for the rest of the day. And so this saved my legs in a big way today, and I really do appreciate it for that. Again, grip is really good in this. I would put these on equal footing for grip. And I think that's most of what I wanted to cover on the Red Hare today. I might think of some things as I'm going through the Megablast. I would say ultimately, if I had to give a pace range for each, this picks up where the Megablast leaves off. There's a little bit of overlap, but I would go slower miles in this and faster miles in Megablast, and that's like a very reductionist way to put it. This feels nothing foam-wise like the Megablast. It's just this like jello-y, interesting, like sometimes non-Newtonian, sometimes it's a little bulky feeling, sometimes it's like a lot of shoe, but ultimately it feels very unique and interesting. The Megablast feels punchy, explosive, exciting, fun, um, and yeah, I mean it's the Megablast. So we'll talk about yesterday's run, what went wrong with it, or what I think went wrong with it. Uh, I think I ate some food that probably I shouldn't have, where I'm trying my best to integrate dairy into my diet because I love it, and it just doesn't work for me. And I made the mistake of thinking like, yeah, I could probably get away with a very tiny amount and I'd be fine. And for the majority of the run, I wasn't like totally messed up from it, just a little off. But towards the end stage of 11, like the last 3 miles, I would say, I was really not having it. And part of it was from the very beginning of the run, I think I had just laced the Megablast too tightly because I hadn't run it in a while. And the fit is so narrow in the forefoot. And so a big difference between these two. The Megablast I have in a 9.5. The Red Hare I have in a 10. The length is almost the same between the two. The width on the Megablast is just shockingly narrow. So I have run the majority of my shoes that I've run in over the course of my life have been 9.5s. That causes me issues sometimes, but I don't know if I've had a shoe quite as narrow in the forefoot that works this poorly for me as a fit as the Megablast does. And this was just like, it'd been a while since I run in this, and I know that that's an issue of the shoe, and I think I just forgot what techniques I was using to mitigate that like annoyance of the Megablast, that little character flaw. And so throughout the run, obviously it's cold and I'm really not trying to take my gloves off to retie the shoes. So I just sort of suffered through it. So it's a contributing factor to how the run went. And I was tired from the run that I did in the Magmax in the morning, sort of unavoidable when you're running a double day, but I wasn't able to let rip in this. And that's really where the Megablast shines. And so that's an issue. You know, I don't know what to say other than like, I made some mistakes going into the run, and those mistakes were revealed in harsh lighting by the upper on the Megablast. And I don't want to harp on about the upper on the Megablast. It's not the worst thing in the world. I think it's really more the narrowness in the forefoot that I'm feeling. And like the Saucony Endorphin Azura that has a nice fitting upper in a 9.5, the Evo SL for all of its like instability that I get from it and the sloppy fitting upper, there's enough room in the forefoot for that. The Takumi Sen 11, also I have that in a 9.5. These are all 9.5 shoes that I could compare to the Megablast. Takumi fits perfectly in a 9.5. So it's really like a lot of the shoes that I own have a pretty nice fit width-wise in the forefoot, and the Megablast just doesn't. So I really hope that's something that they address in the next version of this, that and the price. But comparing the two, if you want to rip, if you want to have a fast, potentially long run shoe, potentially just fun daily trainer that's very protective and extremely fast, can go up to race paces, Asics Megablast, of course, is going to fulfill that role for a lot of people. I do think you should probably try it on before you get it if you can, just to make sure the width is correct. And it's great. It's a great laugh. It's a lot of fun. It's it's fun and it's serious. It's a performance-oriented shoe. Grip. The rubber is still holding on for dear life in this shoe, and I'm impressed by it. It's balding more on this specific shoe than the left one. I guess I just am harsher on the forefoot on my right foot and than my left, where the wear on the left foot is almost none, frankly. It's really most prominent on the right one. So that's one of the benefits of having a high mileage shoe that you've run in a lot recently is that you get to analyze your wear patterns and see where you might have imbalances. And that's a cool thing about the Megablast for me right now. So yeah, Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra is so much more comfortable to run in. It's a much more comfortable shoe. I do think that the upper is like strangely breathable. My feet are always cold in this, and that's something that I've only really experienced in like the Douyin PB Pro, which is more holes than shoe. And the Anta C2027, that's also a shoe that's mostly holes. And so it's strange because this isn't like there's not a ton of visually open, like it's opaque. You can't really see through it. So it's strange to me that it's such a chilly shoe, but that's a boon to its cause for the summer months where this will probably keep your feet cool during the summer months. I think that for both of these, they wouldn't be my top choice for a long run in any given scenario. I was thinking about what to do my long run in this weekend, and I'm still kicking around some ideas, although there's a top contender. And that's always, for me, a very good way to get super familiar with the shoe and put it through its paces, really test it. And both of these shoes I've done very long runs in. I ran a marathon in the Megablast, not a race, but just like for fun, I guess, if you could call it fun. It was really hot that day. I mean, during the run, it was probably like 75 or so, but later in the day, it got up to 90 the day that I ran the marathon in the Megablast. And then this I took for 20, I think it was last weekend even, or recently at least. And both I think are competent for the long run. I think I was fatigued of the softness by the end of the long run in the Red Hare, and the Megablast, it was upper issues. It was just like a little bit of lace bite from that marathon, and like just never felt comfortable on foot on like pinching my feet together a touch. And so yeah, they're both good contenders for the long run, but neither are what I would reach for first. If you have other options, I think that there are other options. But if you were looking for a shoe that could literally do everything, if you wanted just one of these two shoes that could do everything except for maybe race, I think either of them could do that. It'll come down to personal preference. So for me, out of the two, if I were in the market for one shoe, which clearly I'm running a running shoe review channel, so I'm not in the market for only one shoe that could do it all. So my voice is probably not the most reliable on this because I'm just going to keep buying shoes. But if I were only looking for one of these two shoes to do everything except for race, I would actually still get the Megablast. I think that this just can't do any workouts for me so far. And maybe it can, but there are just so many better things on the market for workouts that this would be daily sort of whatever goes paces and recovery. And I think that I'm going to start reaching for this intermittently for more light recovery days. Like if I'm absolutely trashed, I'm going to be reaching for the Mag Max. But if I'm like mildly in pain and I just need like a little bit of a recovery, I would go for the Li-Ning Red Hare 9 Ultra. And for the rest of everything, like if I needed one shoe to do everything else, the Megablast is much better at that. Although I think the obvious elephant in the room in this conversation is that I would take the Dynafish Xiaonian over both of those. All right, so that's been my comparison of these two shoes. I didn't do any stats. They're very tall. So, all right. Thank you all very much for your attention. And as always, stay in motion.